Hello, hello, it's Katie Carey, or Alchemist, Soul Alignment Guide, Self-Mastery Teacher Oracle, Channel, Audacity, Leadership Specialist. I want to talk about your intuition and the purpose of intuition and the function of it and the way that I see even very intelligent, very advanced humans manage to use their intuition as a way to erode their self-trust instead of creating more of it. And I have discovered over whatever, 11 or it's 2026 now, so shit's getting weird, 12 years of work, that self-trust and audacity are the two keys to everything else. They are the keys to developing deeper intuition. They're the key to trusting your intuition, and they're the key to following your intuition. And your intuition is here to follow you towards your blueprint, your full embodiment and alignment with your blueprint and your greater purpose. Greater purpose, the purpose greater than yourself. That comes from you being yourself, your God self. So I'm going to tag some people. I'm going to give you time to come in. I'm going to give you time to say hello. I'm going to give you time to compliment each other. Compliment me. Compliment yourself. Tell me how you doing. Comment. Bitches. All right, let me tag some people. February. Let me add that. Okay, I'm tagging my people who want to be tagged, who want to know the things, and like to be here with me. La 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 la. The other day I was singing country. I already sing to myself a lot, but country is not. I've never made up a country song. We'll talk about what to do. That was a new one. Old school country, not modern pop country. Okay, guys, everybody calm down. How dare you? So, I want to talk about the paradigm people see intuition in, which is what causes the distortion that makes people believe that your intuition is wrong, and it's a yes and, because there are a lot of things going on. Because intuition is related to mastery, and both of those things are very intrinsically related to self-worth. And a lot of that has to do with even just basic... the basic way that we're taught, and that we tend to try to comfort each other, or a lot of people's version of accountability and being friendly is shaming yourself through hindsight in order to learn how to not doing something again. And we're calling that accountability and self-reflection. And while accountability and self-reflection might happen somewhere in there, and it might be effective here and there sometimes, it is not... it's not the most efficient, effective, holistic, and applicable or best or loving or honest way to go. So, when is your intuition wrong versus when are you making it wrong, etc. So first of all, the purpose of intuition is not to make you right. The purpose of intuition is not to be right or wrong. The purpose of intuition is not to lead you into desirable circumstances. The purpose of intuition is not to help you avoid unpleasant and undesirable experiences. That is not the purpose or the function of intuition. Greetings, Christiana. Trying to remember who else wants and likes to be tagged. So a lot of times what I see with people is they follow their intuition somewhere, and as soon as they don't get what they want, or as soon as there's an undesirable circumstance, or as soon as there's something that is unexpected, especially when it comes to being in a relationship with somebody else, or somebody not behaving the way that they expected, or them not getting what they wanted, or somebody lying, or somebody whatever, betrayal, disappointment, expectations, breaking of emotional, spiritual, friendship, verbal contracts, relationship contracts, whatever it is. When somebody follows their path of alignment, one of the reasons that they start to get lost and more lost and more lost on their path of alignment is because they are confusing their intuition for getting what they want, which even one of the problems with that is even the idea that just because you're experiencing a bad feeling or you're experiencing a character that you don't like or that isn't doing what you want or isn't making you feel good, even your interpretation of that situation as wrong or bad is already a story. That's already an interpretation and a meaning that you are assigning. So not only are you, in the first place, assigning meaning to make this experience bad, a failure, success, making it about shame, red flags, shoulda, coulda, woulda, mistakes. When you start to do all of these things, you start to chip at your self-trust because you've made your intuition wrong. And if you are constantly making your intuition wrong every time you don't get what you want, where is there room for initiations? Where is there room for learning? Where is there room for shared medicine? Where is there room for character development? If you are always making your intuition wrong, or if the condition of your intuition being right and good and you being good at it is predicated and dependent on you always getting what you want and you never having to experience discomfort and you always being right about people, where is the room for mystery, magic, medicine, growth, initiations, purpose, karma? Not karma in the way in the westernized interpretation of karma as consequence for bad actions. Karma as in paying debt and being in service to each other. Because the truth is that souls are in service to each other in every exchange. That's the truth. That's the highest measure of truth. The highest measure of truth is in order to pass our initiations, we can't know everything. And in order to be in the human experience, we can't know everything. So we can't be human and know everything at the same time. We can't even be in an initiation while knowing everything at the same time and knowing what's going to happen. We can't learn if we already know everything. Not only that, but we're not even going to know the purpose of our experience until we're dead. Not really. We can think we know. We can know that we know that we know. I tell everybody, I have certainty in me. I have certainty in God. And I have certainty in that I know what I know. And the only person that is allowed to correct what I know is God and my chosen counsel. And I'll know what I know today until I know what I know tomorrow, until I know what I know the next day. Now, I have had my paradigms shattered many, many times in my life. So I also have already learned through my initiations the difference between the arrogance of thinking me right versus standing in my certainty and knowing that the truest, highest level of certainty is in the truth of uncertainty as the nature of reality. So I hold those tensions lightly, which is what a magician does. Magicians hold paradox. They can stand on both sides. They can hold these opposing views, etc. Hello, Jen. So the purpose of intuition is not to be right. In fact, sometimes the only purpose, so let's talk about how intuition is and how God works. And this kind of goes back to the post that I've made about obedience. And a lot of people think they're obedient in exacting obedience, which is what I am known for, frankly. A lot of times intuitions is about getting you out of the way or shifting direction. So sometimes the only point of the intuition is to change your thought. Sometimes the only point of the tone and the urgency is to disrupt your thought enough to change direction so that you don't head towards some trap along the way that doesn't have to be in your initiation. And if you misread it, you'll run into your initiation. And if you avoid it, you'll run into the next one that's in alignment towards your purpose. So the other paradox is that you're always going to get what you need, even when you fuck up, because the truth is that you can't fuck this up. So you can experience consequences. But since there's nothing you actually have to do in this lifetime, you really can't fuck it up, because God can reach you anywhere. Does this mean that you're delusional and that you can be incorrect about what your intuition is and that you don't need to develop intuition? Of course not, right? However, when you misunderstand the function of intuition and assume that intuition is about being right, and that mastery of intuition means always being right or always getting what you expect, never mind the fact that maybe the intuition was correct, but the way you interpreted it, the way you applied it, the length of time that you applied it, when you applied it, there's so many other things that might be incorrect without having to make yourself and your intuition wrong, which is going to erode on your self-trust, and it's going to get you further and further off track. So if always getting what you want and having desirable experiences is the measurement of how good your intuition is, then you're never going to feel good about your intuition. And you're always going to be making yourself wrong. I'm going to pull up an old post I made about this. This is something that I talk about with my clients all the time. So I always say, if there's actually only one thing that I could say to my clients, especially because self-trust really is the key to everything, like something that I have to say over and over again, is stop making your intuition wrong just because you're experiencing trials and errors. So do not make God wrong. Do not make yourself wrong just because you don't like or have desired outcomes you thought you wanted or would achieve. Sometimes you have to go left to turn right. Alignment is about the pathway. Initiations are the portals you cross along the way. Don't erode your self-trust by making your intuition wrong when it is all leading you through the portals of development to prepare you for your wildest dreams. You are worthy of every good thing, always and all ways. Quote by me. This is very important because what you think you want and what you can fathom and what you conceive and the picture that your brain can create versus what's going to bring you true soul satisfaction and the experiences that are going to shift your frequency in order to align you with the pathway that is leading you towards your dreams might feel unexpected or like it's taking you off course. But you're not the one that can see the course. God is. And you don't have to as long as you're in right relationship with God. You don't even have to know the full course. You only have to do what God's telling you to do. Obedience really is the easiest way. And yet everybody makes it the hardest way because of all their stuff and their gunk around obedience, which is related to self-trust. These two things are related. They're afraid to be wrong. That's what's underneath all of that. So if you just trust the path without needing God to constantly explain itself, if you could trust that you don't need to understand all you need to do is trust. You don't need to know. All you have to do is trust. You don't need to see. All you have to do is trust. Then you wouldn't need to be worrying about the 18-step pathway and waiting to understand it and sitting in the perpetual getting ready seat. The purpose of intuition isn't to be right, isn't to get you where you want to go or where you think you want to go or where you think you have to go. It isn't to avoid people you don't want to experience. Trials, errors, and undesirable experiences are not punishment for getting it wrong or being wrong. None of that's what's happening. Hey, girl, hey. So, even if, and I see this a lot, for example, with women and men. You also make yourself wrong with men. And I'm not going to talk to the delusional people, because here's what's happening with content as well. Everybody is so worried about protecting delusional people from themselves that people who are ready for teeth and grown people messaging, and the people who the message is for, they're getting dismissed because everything is being created with the worry of the wrong people hearing the wrong message at the wrong time, which you can't control anyways. So there are some people who are delusion and will just keep making themselves right. I mean, right no matter what, and running into consequences while not changing their behavior. I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to people who this message is for and who it applies to. So, there are things that you can't see and places that you need to go and things that you need to experience. And if you knew that that was going to be the experiences, you likely wouldn't go and you wouldn't learn what you needed to learn. So sometimes there are particular guides. This happens with guides as well. There are guides who are on your path who are tricksters, divine tricksters. Not tricksters because they're against God, but they're tricksters who have been chosen to lead you through particular paths of initiation. And so even when they're wrong, they're right. Which is why you can't actually fuck this up. There are lots of layers to this. I'm playing around with my lighting, by the way. So I just got this new light. I think I like this better. In case you're wondering. It is not your imagination. You are not going crazy. New paper lip gloss. So, sometimes you are getting a message, and sometimes the only purpose is to change your thoughts. That's it. But it won't change your thoughts if you don't take the message seriously and pick and choose when it applies. Which goes back to a post I made, which maybe I'll put in the comments for you guys to read later. It's a post I made recently in the last week or two about trusting the word of God. And that actually the people who have the biggest problem with this are people who have a direct line to source. Because sometimes what you know is the biggest thing that can get in your way of your next step. Especially the more you know. The more you know, sometimes you have more in your way of your obedience, receptivity, and your next level because you have to let go of so much about what you think you know in order to trust and follow and allow God to change your plans and disrupt everything you have going on, including what you think you know and how much you trust yourself and how much nobody can tell you nothing. Because nobody can tell you nothing. Because nobody can tell you nothing. Because you trust yourself and you trust your intuition. It's actually these very women that will walk right into the lion's den, ignoring the subtle signs, then experience something, and then with their super perfectionism, high expectations of their mastery hat, make themselves wrong. So I've actually experienced that this happens more to more advanced, matured, rooted women who have a more direct connection to source and their intuition. It's actually those women that are usually more at risk for making themselves wrong every time they don't get it right, because they're so used to creating desirable experiences. And getting what they want. And being in right relationship with the people they want to be in relationship with. Which is why we say the function, the point, and the purpose of intuition is not to be right or wrong. It's about the path. It's about this step. It's about what it's aligning you with. It's about the direction that it's taking you. Never mind that all things are in motion and free will is always in play. And everything is everywhere all at once. They say that you change the future as soon as you look at it. There is a lens of truth to that. And so sometimes a shift happens. It looks like it's disrupting your plans, but by disrupting your plans, it's actually ensuring that you get what you want, even though it's not happening the way that you think you want it to happen or the way that you've planned for it to happen. It's actually ensuring that it does happen by blowing apart all of your plans now. So this might sound deceivingly simple, and yet hundreds of clients of all levels, of all talent, initiated up the waza with all the ancestors and the altars and the connections and the knowings. And I watch these women, especially. I see this happen more with women. I'm saying it doesn't happen with men. But I watch these women because the more a woman knows, the more likely she is to pick and choose how to apply that obedience. And then go, well, I kind of applied it where it worked for me because I'm taking the meat and picking the bones the way I want to pick and choose it, which is not the posture of a student, by the way. This isn't about submitting to somebody else over you. It's just about not being teachable even to God. Because there is the posture of a student of mastery, even in your intuition and the experience in this school called life, on this pathway of alignment and initiations where you are trying to learn something under God. So even as a teacher, this is comparing the teacher-student dynamic. If a student tells me something isn't working for them, but they didn't apply it the way I told them to apply it, when I told them to apply it, where and how I told them to apply it, with enough consistency, time, and commitment for it to create any change, I'm going to say, you never did what I told you in the first place, so you wouldn't know if it worked or not. That's what I tell you if you were a student. My students who are teachable, forget what they think they know, surrender to the process, and do the work I'm giving them in the way that I am telling, and do it the way that I am telling them to do it, and applying it in the way that it needs to be applied for effectiveness, and being seen in that application in order to be corrected and refined, which is literally the privilege of what they're paying for. You can follow any old goddamn blueprint all by your goddamn self. Just throw up a blueprint on AI. Courses, we don't need people anymore. All I got to do is read some instructions. Oh boy, thank God. All these books, thousands of years later, all these writings, books, and how-tos, and this whole time we just needed AI to write it. Thank God. Ooh, now that AI's here, suddenly, it's going to work, and we don't need courses anymore. And you don't need to learn from somebody else. And AI can do it, right? Silly people. So it's no different with God. You want to be a student of God, I have to take the posture of a student, which means I have to submit to the process, which has nothing to do with power play. Y'all keep creating power kinks and power struggles and rebelling with yourself. And the only person you're hurting is you. Nobody's trying to have control over you. You're coming to God or your teacher, asking for a process, admitting you don't know what you don't know, but you're too busy hanging on to what you think you know to accurately apply anything that you receive. And you're filtering it through what you think you know with your resistance. The people in my programs that have progress, but they don't have total radical shifts over and over again, and they don't hit that exponential point or haven't yet, are the ones who they're using my tools on the 3D level, but they're very resistant to completely surrendering to the process and even the ideas and the truth that they are creating their reality. They won't let go of anything else. And they think I can't see them, or that it's not obvious in their language, that they're hanging on to what they think they know. And they're considering this and they're considering that, and they're kind of doing this, and they're sort of considering that they're maybe sort of responsible for this one thing, and that maybe sometimes they need to consider that they're creating this, and maybe sometimes they consider that it's their energy that's informing on everything else, and after everything else fails, then they apply the process the way that I'm telling them, and they see a little bit of growth, and they go do their own thing, and then when it fails, then they pick up the tools I give them. Those people still actually have some progress, believe it or not. But that's it, progress, not real radical shifts, which has nothing to do with being right. It has to do with surrendering to the process. They said, okay, I want to know this, I want to learn this, but they're refusing to forget what they know and pick this up as even possibly true. They're not really all in. They're not really all in on it. And I'm comparing this to God, not comparing me to God, but from the lens of God trying to teach you something and you being a student of your own alignment and your own initiations and your own reality so that you may learn and master it. Who are you? Who is the person trying to become a master? Well, they are the student, right? That's who is stepping into mastery. Who is walking into mastery? Who are they? They're the student. Right? You're the student. Speaking of one of my amazing students of past, this is hitting so deep. I was literally told, get the new car. And I was like, okay, how this will work. Got the new car. Obedience, instant income, increased 2 days later. I've told this story before, and I have to go in 15 minutes, so I'm going to tell this story right now. I haven't told the story in a long time. So, this is when I learned that obedience requires speed. And this is related to everything that we're talking about, right? I remember exactly where I was. I was down and out. I was post-divorce. This was like, I think 2 months after my divorce. I was in this place that I had just gotten. I purposely got this lease that I made sure was a lease that I could have somebody take over the lease and all of that, and had the right to like sublet it and have the contract over, all of that. It's 4 blocks from the beach, Miami Beach. Everything's awesome. This place is great. I'm in meditation. I remember exactly where I was. I remember the flake of paint that I was looking at, and I remember the peace that come over me, and God said, you are complete with this place. It's time to move. I thought I was listening. I did not think I was being disobedient at all. I received that message and said, oh, yeah, okay, wonderful, how exciting. I'm going to go make plans, big, grand plans to move. So at first I took fast action, but there was no urgency. Everything was going well. I had a padding, like a little padding. I maybe had 3 months of income. I had some recurring income going on. I was in a flow. I was in a sales flow. I was showing up to sell. Like everything was going great. I posted up my place. I had taken the time to really curate and furnish this place. It was cute. It was adorable. It was gettable. And there was like a housing crisis in Miami because this was fresh post-pandemic. We were one of the only ones open. We had the best economies, blah, 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 blah. So people were bidding over leases. It was crazy. So I put my place up on, I think, good old Craigslist, unless maybe there was like an ad or an app. Anyways, I got like 20 people competing and offering to pay me to take over the lease, which I expected. Had I left then, I had money in my account. I had recurring revenue. I felt good. Everything was great. The place was fantastic. I was going to be able to pick and choose what I left. I didn't know I was going to end up leaving the US, but I knew I was leaving somewhere. So I was already wanting to live I had a mini SUV like car. So I would have been paid to leave this apartment in exactly the way that I wanted to go, with enough money in my pocket, in the middle of momentum, everything, right? Had I listened to God exactly when God said move. However, I decided, I didn't think I was being disobedient at all. I took in God's word and I said, you know what? I decided I want to let me get 10 more K cash in my pocket. Let me go do a couple things. I'm going to get 10 more cash in my pocket, made a couple other goals, whatever. I'm going to be more responsible and be extra safe. Sure, I've got some padding right now. Let me be extra safe before I leave. I'm going to just wait a few weeks. I take the listing off. Right across the street, a house burns down. An entire apartment building burns down to the ground. The next door neighbor is a geriatric old person that had been living there for a long time, and they start to move out. As soon as they move out, I guess the place was disgusting. Dozens of roaches started coming out of my sink. The next day, the Miami condo collapse happened. If you're not aware of the Miami condo collapse, which was it was 9 or 10 blocks from me. And the way that Miami works, there's only 2 or 3 bridges to get across. There's like a water bay area, whatever, in between the actual shoreline in Miami. So when you live that close on that strip in Miami, you have to cross one of 3 bridges across like a very long stretch to get across to the other side to even get into town. So I am very far away from one bridge. I'm pretty close to the middle bridge. The other one is I can't get past it all. The Miami condo collapse, when the condo collapse happened, which was very tragic, 159 people died instantly, they think, because we couldn't find anybody. We couldn't find a single survivor, but that took days. So the Miami condo collapsed in on itself. Nobody knew why. We couldn't find an explanation. Nothing like that's ever happened in the world. It was on global news. The dust was everywhere. There were blocks and blocks of news trucks, cement trucks, because they didn't know what was happening. They had to save every block of this entire, God, I don't remember how many stories it was. It was a big old condo complex right on the beach that caved in and collapsed in on itself all at once. And so in order to be investigated, they had to save every piece of cement for it. They flew Israeli firefighters in. The families of the people who were trapped under were there waiting, praying, and camping out. There were news blocks. I could not get out of that house it took me 2.5, 3 hours to leave my house and go anywhere. There's roaches now, baby roaches inside my refrigerator stool, coming out of my wall, coming out of my sink. I have dozens of roaches in my place. It's terrible, it's disgusting, it's awful, it's creepy, it's gross. I'm trying spray, I'm trying all these things, I can't get it to work. I can't get anybody to come into my apartment because it takes 3 hours to get where I am. I'm next to the Miami condo collapse. Nobody can get to the bridge. For anybody to get to me, it would take 3 to 4 hours minimum just to get to me. So they're telling me no, they can't. They're not. Nobody will come see me. Then the termites. This all happens in less than 2 weeks. I think 7 to 8 days. Then I had such bad termites, which is common in Miami. But the termites got so bad as well that I had to keep the lights off at night. I'm talking thousands. I have pictures. I'm talking thousands on thousands on thousands and thousands of termites there at night. I couldn't even wash my face or anything without termites trying to hit my face. The wings were shedding every night. It was disgusting. So I've got a house full of roaches, a house full of termites. I can't go anywhere. It's taking me 3 hours to leave my house. I am trapped. I can't sell the house. I can't pass off the lease anymore. Not in integrity with myself. I can't even get away with showing it and pretending it's okay. There's roaches everywhere. I'm plugging the sink. I'm trying borax with peanut butter in it. I'm trying everything I can. I can't get anybody to come help me. I had to fight with the landlord to break that lease. So, fire next door, roaches, termites, Miami condo collapse, trapped in the side of the road. And then I was so frustrated and upset that I went out and crashed my car. That all happened. So I think after the car crash, I think that was all a 9-day period. Yeah. And God said very clearly, none of this is a punishment. I just wanted to get you out of the way. I told you, you're done with this house. It's time to leave. How am I relating that to the intuition being wrong? Well, I am relating it to how obedience works and how we can think we're being obedient, but really we're trying to fold what we think we know about God into our well-made plans because we don't want our regularly scheduled programming and the way that our budgeting is set up and the way that we want to feel and the way that our safety is set up and the way that our preferences are set up. And all of those things, without realizing it, are us basically saying that we know better than God. And we think that we're obedient, but obedience does require speed. Because the measure of trust in obedience is speed. Not urgency, not rushing, just speed. Taking action without needing to know why. And that is the last time. That's why you see me on the road. I have learned, baby. When God says move, I don't ask no motherfucking questions. I pack up and go. I learned my lesson. That is when I learned. Finally. Right? In a very obvious, clear way that obedience requires speed. Right? And I thought I was being obedient. I heard God clearly. I was like, bet. And then I made my well-made plans. God told me what to do. And I went and made my well-made plans and how I would like it to be done in a way that I thought and decided that would be best and most comfortable for me. I ended up losing money leaving. It was stressful. I had to move out on 4th of July. I think by the time I was able and allowed to break my lease, I had to leave and get a hotel. I cracked my rib and when I crashed my car. I'm like in a hotel, I can't really move very well. And God just literally said, none of this is punishment. I was just trying to save you what was already ahead of you on the pathway you were currently on. I tried to interrupt your regularly scheduled programming. I told you when you were done. I told you when you were done at the best possible time for you to leave. Do I have time to tell one more story? I do. When God told me to go to Mexico City. God said, you're done here. It's time to leave. It's time to go to Mexico City. Again, when you're in survival, you're used to only listening to God. And where do you do this with men as well? Men that are your leaders and teachers. And unless God moves, yells, shakes the house down, gets you a little bit scared, gives you some urgency, when do you not even notice that God's giving you instruction? So I had to get another instruction of that. I knew full body, it's time to leave. And I interrupted myself because I started doing it again. I was like, bet, cool. I started making well-made plans. I'm like, cool, I'm going to move in 2 to 3 months. You know, I start researching. I start making sure Mexico City is the right place for me. I start imagining and I start deciding and I make a budget and I make a plan and this is how much I'm going to make and this is what I'm going to do. And then I stopped myself and I checked in and I said, and I called a friend, one of my only trusted advisors, and I said, I think I'm doing it again. Can you check for me? Can we let's check together? Am I supposed to leave sooner? Very long story short, received a message. Bam. Yes, you're supposed to leave. You know, not as urgent as when you're in Miami, but you need to leave. So boom. And I had a full setup house that I liked. Stuff I liked, clothes I liked. I gave 90% of my stuff away, made a deal with my landlord, buttoned everything up nice, gave everything away, gotten it in my suitcases because I was told very clearly that it was time for me to learn to live nowhere and belong everywhere. Got my stuff out. I was gone in 10 days. So I made the plan immediately, made the deal with my landlord, was gone in 10 days, booked everything. Within 48 hours that I left that apartment, a hurricane hit the shore of Playa del Carmen. That hurricane caused only my apartment building to break the transponder. They did not have power for over 8 days. I was still in a group chat with my apartment complex. They did not have power for 8 days, and I was living in a floor apartment that was a makeshift apartment, and it had outdoor drains on the inside that were that they had secluded and boxed in that I'd had some sewage problems with. It was a very local place. So it had these problems and sewage issues that I had already had to have a handyman come and handle for me. Sometimes there'd be smell, sometimes there'd be flooding. That apartment flooded 48 hours after I left. So had I not been obedient and gotten my ass to Mexico City exactly when God said, it's time for you to go, even though there was nothing wrong and everything was great and I loved my life, there was seemingly no urgency other than God telling me to leave. And in that case, it was about what I was heading to. However, the timing mattered. And if I had left even a day later, I don't even know if I could have gotten a flight because we were expecting a Category 3 hurricane. So, had I not trusted God, had I been waiting for the right plan or waited for the circumstances that I would have preferred to move in, and a security that I would have, the 3D security things that I would have liked to have had, I wouldn't have even been able to leave, and my stuff would have been flooded. I mean, it would have been a nightmare. So yet another lesson in obedience requires speed. God is not punishing you. God's been trying to get you out of the way. And you've been telling a story that you're obedient, and you've either been making your intuition wrong because of the way that you've been applying your intuition, or picking and choosing how you apply it, or you've been making it wrong because it drove you to the experience that you were meant to have the initiations that you were meant to have the character development that you need to have in order to be a vibrational match for that which you desire and be deeper in alignment with your blueprint, in possession of more God power and keys and talent and skills and ability and influence. Get up and get. Yes, ma'am. So, where do you think you're being obedient to God as you take that intuition and kind of rolling it into your regularly scheduled program in a way that will disrupt you the least? And calling that obedience. And then on top of that, if things don't go the way that you want to, making yourself wrong. Which is why we say we are being playful to get you to come and click and listen. Because your intuition is wrong and it's right. And your intuition is neither. Your intuition is right, wrong, and neither, because the purpose and function of intuition isn't to be right. But that doesn't make it wrong. You just don't understand the full function and purpose of intuition. And I'm speaking, by the way, as somebody who has been giving psychic readings, prediction accurately. I am a highly experienced, highly credible, high level of authority, trained, facilitated, initiated priestess and psychic and oracle. I see pathways of my students. I see pathways when I'm giving readings. I see pathways, and I'm not allowed to tell you the pathways. First of all, even if I told you, it's like describing a rose to a blind person. It's not going to really do anything from where you are. And secondly, it would disrupt your initiations. It would change the path anyways. I would be robbing you of the pathway you're supposed to embark on, and the keys that I would be stealing those keys from you. If I told you everything I'm seeing, I can only give you the message and allow you the free will and sovereignty to do what you want with it. And that's it. That's all I'm allowed to do. Which is why I'm always amazed when people know who I am, friends and otherwise, and they take something I say and apply it by like 2% kind of sort of whatever and go about their merry way and come back later. But I digress. Such is life. Because whether 6 months later, a week later, a year later, I am telling you, everybody comes back and says, wow, that thing that you told me to do that I didn't think made sense and I thought I knew better about, or that thing that I followed and I didn't know why. Me included, I am also the testimony of this. So, stop using intuition as a tool to see yourself as passing, failing, achieving, successful, right, wrong, good judge of character, mastery. If you end up in situations and people disappoint you, then that means you're bad and wrong and untrustworthy, and other people can't trust you, and now you're not good enough, and now you can't lead, all because you were wrong about somebody. No, you weren't wrong about somebody. You made a decision based off of what you knew at the time, what you were allowed to know at the time as a human, and that other human did something. They made a choice. And on it, you are really not even going to know until you're dead exactly the purpose of that experience. Truly. That you literally are not going to know exactly why that happened, how it happened, all the ways it blessed you. So even your hindsight, it's the other thing. Hindsight isn't even real. It's not real. It's not true. Not really. Because you're literally sitting at the mountain of everything that you've been through. You can't compartmentalize that. You can't pick and choose what grew you and what didn't. In your human, right? You don't have the eyes of God. So in your ungodly eyes, as you look over your life with all of your different assigned meanings and misinterpretations and presumptions of a thing, your hindsight is equipped with that experience, undesirable or not. So hindsight is silly because it's impossible for you to even look at the experience without the wisdom of the experience you just went through. So it's easy to say you didn't need it after you're the person that had the experience. And by the way, this really drives me crazy with all levels of coaches and stuff, not in a way that's bad, in a way that makes me sad for you, in the way that I know that you're discrediting yourself. Because when I see people be like, when I think back, I didn't need to invest this much money and I didn't need to do all this and all this stuff was better. And thinking back, just so you know, you don't have to make scary investments and you can do everything that's good for your nervous system. I think this is doing people a disservice. Because I don't know anybody that didn't need to truly, scare the fuck out of their nervous system, take the big goddamn scary leap, make a big damn scary sacrifice, be all in, risk going homeless, risk losing it all, risk losing the relationship, risk losing the business, risk losing the security, risk losing the approval. I don't know anybody who has a great fucking life that's better than what they could possibly perceive that didn't have to fucking do that to get there. So there's no point in sitting after you're the person who went through all of that and became the person who went through all that trial and error to sit there because now you're the person who doesn't need that thing. And now you're only the person you are with the hindsight you have because of those experiences. And now you've got these experiences and you're telling other people they can skip it? I'm sorry, I don't agree. I understand that person disappointed you, that coach disappointed you, that mentor disappointed you, that boyfriend disappointed you, that husband disappointed you. I'm not saying you didn't learn nothing. I'm not saying that you can't teach people, learn what I did and didn't. I'm saying that the way that you think lessons have to happen and the way that they have to look and the stories that you're telling about it and the souls who served you in the process, can you really say with certainty that you didn't need that, or are you the person who doesn't need it now? Because you're discrediting how you became the person that you are. And you're picking and choosing the parts that got you here and the parts that didn't. What is this magical hindsight that you are looking at? I have to go. I'm going to go get my lashes are so not good. I'm going to go lay down and relax now. Should have been charging my phone this whole time. All right, that's it. Rant over. Well, we almost got out of here without me going off. We did it again. Okay, this is a good one. I'm glad that this is here. I do officially have a gal who is helping me get my stuff on YouTube. So yesterday's video, and I have two videos. I have one about radical responsibility and one about the discipline of slow. And this one, those are going to be posted on YouTube soonish in the next week or two. So I think the link to follow me is on the link in my bio, but if not, I'll have her update that because we did create a little link thing. So I'll get that posted ASAP. Meantime, if you're interested in being mentored by me for the sake of self-mastery, self-trust, audacity, obedience, and stepping into purpose, we are opening. For the founding members of the Soul Alignment Institute, we are open for self-mastery mentorship. I'd love to be your guide. Reach out. Let's have a talk. The Audacity Masterclass has been rescheduled for February. So if you're interested in buying that, I'm going to be making personal invites to people. With everything that happened in December, I basically went to bed for a month. So we're back. We're back to our regularly scheduled programming. Back and better than ever, if I do say so myself. So if you'd like to have a conversation with me about mentorship, you know where I'd be. Questions, feedback, follow-up questions, suggestions, recommendations. You want me to go live about something? We going live in this season, baby. We having conversations. Talk to me. Also, go blow up my page because, you know, Facebook's got my shit dropping and all that shit. Go blow shit up. Go like some stuff. I've been dropping gold. I love you. Okay. Mwah. Bye.